What's up, guys? This is cielshock from CT USA Mini 4-Wheel Drive Racing Squad. I'm a teacher here in New Parks, and today we're gonna talk about the next chassis on my chassis series that you guys all been waiting for. But before we start, I want you guys to look back from 2000 to 2011. Since then there was no Japan Cup events or races for Mini 4-Wheel Drive, which is the dark era of Mini 4-Wheel Drive. So what happened back in 2000 to 2011? So basically all the racers are growing up. They probably have different hobbies like Beyblades. Some people turn into cosplayers because they're watching too much anime. And some people got into music. And internet was booming. So you got that Friendster, especially in my country, MySpace. And then online gamings and also console games. Like, I remember Rock Band and all that stuff came out. And MTV was around too, as I have my MTV throwback videos over here. So I would say basically all the people just grew up and have their identity crisis, and Mini 4-Wheel Drive is not their priority. So this is like the dark age of Mini 4-Wheel Drive, as I've said. But in 2005, Tamiya made an announcement they're gonna make a new chassis, which is the MS chassis. So this chassis, that they said that they revolutionized Mini 4-Wheel Drive, and we're gonna find out later as we talk about this, and we're gonna go in depth with this chassis. We're gonna talk about its strengths and weaknesses. I'm gonna give you some advices which I think, and some people think, and all the feedbacks that I'm getting from what category this chassis will be perfect or suit up. And we're gonna talk about its anatomy, its length, and everything. And yeah. So if you guys want to go time travel with me in 2005 when MS chassis came out, we're gonna have a little history in 2 seconds.
The MS chassis is a Mini 4-Wheel Drive chassis introduced by Tamiya in November 2005. Actually, it was the first double shaft motor driven chassis, and it was exclusively belongs to the Mini 4-Wheel Drive Pro car lineup. Instead of placing the motor in the front or the rear, the motor was relocated to the middle of the chassis. To do this, Tamiya and SMC Motor co-developed and co-produces the double shaft motors for the new chassis, resulting in the 50-50 ratio of power transfer. The batteries are now moved to the sides of the chassis. The normal MS chassis is also a module-like chassis. It is divided into 3 main parts, which are the nose, the center, and the tail. There are different noses and tails for the MS chassis, while there is only 2 center parts. There's even the nose and the tail without the bumpers at all. It has a short 80mm wheelbase, as the most compact chassis has results in better cornering performance. Due to the nature of the direct type 4-wheel drive drivetrain it has, the MS chassis has higher torque performance than any chassis released so far. The chassis, however, was heavier than any chassis, which can be countered by using the lightweight center parts. Motors as well as terminals made for earlier chassis are not compatible with the MS chassis, as it requires new parts made exclusively for Mini 4-Wheel Drive Pro. Due to the motor and battery being placed at the middle of the chassis, narrow track, large diameter wheels are no longer compatible. The basic MS chassis components would later reused and redeveloped in the MA chassis. Now, let's go back to cielshock for the stats.
Alright, so you guys are looking at the chassis stats diagram right now. And the chassis diagram is divided into 6 categories, which is toughness, acceleration, cornering, stability, adaptability, and ease of maintenance. And before I go into the actual stats, let's talk about all these 6 categories. Toughness is how tough the car is, durability, and acceleration in how fast the car accelerates. Cornering is the speeds when going through into corners. Stability is how stable the car in different situations coming out from the box. Adaptability is how can it adapt into different kinds of Mini 4-Wheel Drive parts. And last but not the least is ease of maintenance and how you're gonna keep your car maintained and well maintained and clean. So now let's go to the first category, which is toughness. Alright, so as you guys can see, the toughness is 4.4, which is for me is very high. Because if we take a look at the chassis later, as I show you the actual chassis, you can see what the chassis will look like, and you will see why the toughness is 4.4, because how it's built. And again, it's built into 3 pieces, so that makes it make it a little bit more rigid and heavier, so the chassis is tough. The next category would be acceleration. Acceleration is 3.9, which is only 0.1 slower compared to other fast chassis. So the acceleration is really nice. It's only 0.1 slower. It's probably 0.1 slower because it's a double shaft, because it's all torque. So the acceleration is 3.9, and I guess the top speed a little bit suffers because it's a double shaft. The cornering is 4.9, which is crazy ridiculous, because 5 is perfect and 0.49 is just 0.1 for being perfect. The reason why it is 4.1 is it's probably because of the wheelbase, because it's an 18mm, which is I will tackle later. But cornering is 4.9, so this car is very, very fast when it comes to cornering. Stability rather, which is our number 4 category, is 3.9. That's why we need to compensate that category a little bit, because that's a little weakness, because it's 3.9 when it comes to stability. That's why when we use it for speed tech, we have to do some dampening positioning and strategies when it comes to the chassis, because of the stability is 3.9. It's probably because also it's a double shaft chassis, so the motor is in the middle. That's why it makes sense why the stability suffers for a little bit compared to other chassis. Next on the list is adaptability, which is a screaming 4.5. That means this chassis is very adaptable, because it's only 4.5 and it's 0.5 away from being perfect. So this car, if you guys will take a look at it later, when I go for a closer look, this chassis have a lot of holes, and as I've said, it's a 3-piece chassis, so it's interchangeable. You can make it lighter, you can make it bumperless without cutting, and you can put different kind of colors. You can go wider and you can go narrower, so it depends how you cut it also. And it's just very, very adaptable in general. So that stat is 4.5. The ease of maintenance is 3 rather, because this is a 3-piece chassis, so you basically have to dismantle the whole chassis in order to do a little bit of maintenance by cleaning it. So the chassis is a 3-piece, so you have to dismantle it if you want to clean it. And it's just like attaching the parts when you actually upgraded it to speed tech is a lot of work. It's basically doing the maintenance for this chassis is a lot of work, because there's a lot of like tiny spots that you need to clean, especially when it comes to gunk and grease and everything. But overall, the toughness is 4.4, acceleration is 3.9, cornering is 4.9, stability is 3.9, adaptability is screaming 4.5, which is my favorite stat with this chassis, and ease of maintenance is 3. What's up, guys? This is cielshock, and I'm back, and I'm gonna show you how to build an MS chassis right from the box. But before I start, I want to show you the 3 major parts that Girly mentioned earlier. It is the nose part, the tail part, and the center piece. And you guys might be wondering, I have 2 nose parts over here. This one is the N1, that is the first release, the older release for MS chassis is an N1. And this is an N2, which you can commonly see on MS chassis now. And there's another chassis called MSL, which is MS Light. Would have a little bit different structure, but because we're talking about straight out from the box, these are the box style parts. All right. So there's also another one, which is N4, but that's a reinforced one. All right, so we're gonna start building it, and as I learned through the years that I'm using MS chassis, it's easier when you start with the gears and the wheels. So you still have your traditional bushing over there, the bushing and the eyelet, as you can see. And you have a different kind of gear now because it's double shaft. This is an orange gear, which is for the 4:1 gear ratio that goes in this center part over here. This kit, by the way, is a Neo Falcon from Patrick, my teammate. And thank you so much, so I can make this video. So it's pretty easy. You just put it like this. Right, as I am putting all the wheels and the gears, I'm gonna talk about the wheelbase. The wheelbase is 80 millimeters, which is short enough. But these are wide wheels over here. The drive shaft is also 60 millimeters and 72 millimeters with an N4 and T4 only. So it's a little bit longer when you have the N4 and T4 for the drive shaft length. It's pretty crazy, right? And the gears that are compatible with this chassis is I think 4-1, 3-7-1, and 3-5-1. So you don't have that 4-2-1 option no more for this chassis. All right, so this chassis, this is the tail part. It goes over here. So it's pretty much the same like the front part. Pretty much self-explanatory over there. So that's the rear part. All right, so we got our nose and our tail now with wheels. All right, so the width of the car with them all together is 92 millimeters. All right, so now I'm gonna show you how to put the terminals over here. So here's the centerpiece. You can see it's a little bit wider and it's more bulkier compared to a regular chassis besides Super XX and Super X. So this is really new when it came out. Like, people were like, ooh, what is that? It's actually 3 pieces and it's a double shaft motor, so expect a lot of torque from this chassis. So this part is your switch. Don't lose it. It's very valuable. The MSL chassis have a different kind of switch, but this one is a regular MS chassis, so the switch goes over there. Alright, so this is how you're going to put your terminals over here. There you go. And this part over here. Actually hooks over there. There you go, it snaps over there. And then this part over here, and this part over here. There you go. And then you're gonna put your switch. Switch goes over here. And these are your A parts that goes to your motor. I'm gonna show you how you put it. See, this one goes exactly around that, and it's molded there. And this part, right? And when I put this, I basically put these 2 terminals over here flat, and I push it like this. There you go. All right, so you made your centerpiece. All right, so it's pretty easy that we're gonna put the front. Front goes like this. That's the nose part. Snap. Oops. And this is the rear part. Then you snap. There you go. So these are your 2 counter gears. These are different when you compare to your regular counter gears. This is a 4:1 gear ratio again. If you can see, it's a blue counter gear. One thing, the shaft doesn't have a notch anymore like your old one, and you need 2 because it's a double shaft to make it the power even. There you go. And that's how you put your crown gears. And this is your motor and gear cover. One trick when doing this, this part, there's 2 hooks right here. If you can see, closer look. This hooks up with a battery lock. All right, like that. So you will have the hint that this goes in parts when you're rushing and you're building your car. And the piece right here, as you can see, it goes under. That's the rear part. So you basically put that like this. That's the rear part goes over here, and the front goes right here. So that's how I make it. There you go. And then the front goes here. So you pretty much everything is snap on. There you go, easy. And then you snap it over here. There you go, and that's your lock. I'm gonna show you how to put the batteries. Battery goes like this: positive up, negative down, positive up on the left, negative on the right. And then there's a switch. Unfortunately, I don't have a different color. Once it's black, so bear with me. I'm sorry. There you go. Yeah, that's the switch. All right. So there you go. You build your MS chassis straight out from the box. Alright, so obviously there will be rollers and everything over there. But the length of the MS chassis from here to here, when you have an N1 part, which is this part, alright, I'm going to show you how to remove this too. It's pretty easy. There's like 2 clips over here. 2 clips. There you go. This is 154 millimeters. With an N1 part. Alright, so from here to here it's 154 millimeters, so the chassis is actually longer. Alright, when you have the N4, I mean the N1. So when you have the N2, it's 2 millimeters shorter, where there's 152, which is 152 millimeters from here to here. Alright, okay. The width is 92 millimeters. The wheelbase is 80 millimeters, which defies its cornering speed, which is 4.9. That's what make it, I think, is one factor. That's why it's faster, because of the wheelbase. The wheelbase is this to this, so that's only 80 millimeters away from each other. The ground clearance is 40 millimeters, which are large diameter wheels. So the ground clearance from the box is 4 millimeters, so it's very high if you have a large diameter. And if you have a low profile small diameter one, it's 1 millimeter from the ground. So if you have a kit that is like smaller wheels, it will be closer to the body. I mean closer to the ground, which is more gravitational pull, so the car is actually lowered. Alright, the drive shaft length is 60 millimeters and 72 with an N4 and T4 only part. The compatible gear ratios are 4-1, 3-7-1, and the 3-5-1. So you actually don't have the 4-2-1 option anymore when it comes to the gear ratio. It's just fixed 4-1, 3-7-1, and 3-5-1. You basically change this part if you want to switch to 3-7 or 3-5-1, but if you have this 4-1, you have to remove both gears over there and change it to pink gears. The weight of the batteries, with the batteries, the weight is 124 grams to 123. Without the batteries, it's 70 grams. So as you can see, the structure of the MS chassis, it's pretty heavy compared to other chassis. So if you are modifying this for speed tech, you have to do a little bit of weight reduction. As we go back to the stats of this chassis, the toughness of this chassis is 4.4. If you take a closer look with this chassis looks really tough. Straight out from the box. Again, this stats is again straight out from the box. As you can see, it's pretty tough. It's not twisting. It's like it's snap on in parts, so it's pretty durable. That's why the toughness of this car is good. So if you're using it for speed tech or a Japan Cup category, this is actually tough. So you don't have to do a lot of reinforcements. All right, acceleration is 3.9, which makes sense because it's a double shaft. So it's a little bit slower compared to VS chassis and S2, I guess, because I think it's because of the weight, for my own opinion. So it's a little bit heavier. So if you're using it for tune class or for a speed tech category, you have to put a little bit stronger motor, like a Hyper Dash or a Mac Dash. Or, in my opinion, if I'm using it in tune class, I have to like lighten up the car to have better acceleration. And one thing that I noticed with this chassis, the transmission can be loose. Like this can be loose. This can be it will have a lot of drag and power loss when it's moving. So you have to work on your transmission as long as with your floating gear to make it faster when it comes to acceleration. Cornering is screaming 4.9, which is just 0.1 for being perfect. Basically because it's a torque based stock motor. I mean torque based chassis. And this is straight out from the box, so the cornering speed will be really fast because it comes out with low friction rollers. All the MS chassis have low friction rollers, and I think that's what make it fast for cornering. And the roller is like closer to the body when you're using an N2 part. Adaptability is 4.5. Which makes sense because there's a lot of pro parts nowadays. So when you're adapting it and trying to adapt and make it a lot of parts, there's tons of holes over there. So you can see the tail, holes over there to secure it, holes up front. So that's what makes it very, very adaptable for me, that's the most favorite stats that I like with this car, again, as I've said, because this car is very adaptable. So from the box, it's already adaptable enough, so you can put a lot of hop-up parts and modification with this part. And the ease of maintenance is 3. And I understand why it's only 3, because it's 3 parts. So you gotta remove this. This one's kind of hard to remove. There's a lot of places that you have to clean with this chassis when you're trying to maintain this chassis. And if you're actually upgrading this, every time you put a screw, whether say people cut this or bumperless this, you have to screw the whole part, and when you're dismantling it, it's 3 pieces before you really get to dismantle this car. So the maintenance is kind of like the little bit downfall, but it doesn't bother me, because for the people that really like assembling their cars and taking their time building their car, maintenance won't bother them, because the more work, the more they like it. You know, some people are not lazy like that. So I really like this chassis. For me, it's very, very competitive. Am I gonna use it for stock races? I can use it in some track layouts, but because the stability of this chassis is 3.9, which makes sense to me, because there's only one rollers over here, and it's not a double roller like the MA chassis or an AR chassis, but that would be a different video for the AR and the MA. But there's only like one low friction over here on each corner, which make it not that stable when it comes to if you're using it for box stock. But if you're using it for high speed box stock, it might be stable, but you have to have a perfect, like, you know, you have to tune the motor like just perfect for the chassis. But the stability is the one that's the downfall of this chassis right from the box, straight out from the box. So also makes sense because it's a mid-shift motor chassis, so the motor is right in the middle. So when the car jumps on slopes, it's rather tilting up front or it's tilting backwards. So there's really no consistency where it's gonna tilt, and there's only one rollers on each side, like to compensate that weakness and that stability problem. You're basically just relying on your wheel combination and your just your aerodynamic body shell. But yeah, so if the stability suffers, you gotta work on that stability more. I mean, it's not that bad because it's 3.9, but you know, when you're racing stock, you rely on stability on the most part, because that's for box stock. For tune class, I will make it light as possible, and I will compensate the stability by putting the proper wheels, the proper wheel combination, the proper damper combination, and also the same thing with speed tech. because it's tough. I can put a higher motor like Mach Dash and Hyper Dash, and I will not have to worry about the toughness or breaking the car as much as other chassis. So yeah, so that's what the MS chassis looked like, and it's you know, again, back in 2005. That's like one of the dark eras of mini 4-wheel drive, and this is new to them back then, and now it's really famous when it comes to its MS suspension and other settings that people are doing, and it's one of my winning cars. I mean, winning chassis since I started racing. I have like a couple. I'm gonna show you my Speed Tech. I specifically, personally, use it for Speed Tech or J-Cop setup. This one is the one for this is a Gallo, my flex setup, you know, my pivot setup, and it's also a suspension built. See, because it's 3-piece, you can modify the car for this kind of setup. I have suspension, pivot, everything. You see the body damper system. It's basically, you know, as I've said, like when it first came out, people doesn't know what's capable of yet. You know, when it first came out in the 2005, people were wondering what this chassis can do, because, you know, nobody knows. Everybody was still experimenting. But now it's 2018, and we basically can do everything. You know, we learn how to make the MS chassis better and very competitive when it comes to races. So this is one of my favorite car, Victoria. It's also a suspension built, and yeah, people do suspension, people do some crazy stuff with the MS chassis. So yeah, so this is cielshock from CTUSA Mini 4-Wheel Drive Racing Squad. I'm a teacher in Noob Works, and as I always say, we learn from you, you learn from us. Always race humble. And if you like this video, please hit subscribe and hit that bell button, so every time I make a video, you get a notification and you won't miss anything. So again, yeah, always race humble. Peace.